podcast. Your host, Dr. Kelly Ray, is a renowned mindset coach and counselor, often referred to as the inner critic tamer. With a passion for guiding individuals through life's challenges, she specializes in personal growth and emotional healing. In each episode, Dr. Kelly Ray shares invaluable insights, practical strategies, and relatable stories designed to inspire you to take that first step toward positive change. So, grab your favorite beverage, settle in, and get ready to dive deep into meaningful conversations that empower you on your journey. Let's welcome Dr. Kelly Ray.
Hey there. Welcome back to the Getting to the Week podcast. I'm Dr. Kelly Ray, your host, and I'm really glad that you're here today, especially because this conversation feels important, and honestly, it's very personal. Yesterday was Mother's Day here in the United States, and over the last several days, I found myself thinking a lot about women. The women who came before us, the women raising families now, the women holding everything together while quietly running on empty. And I keep thinking about how fascinating humans are, because part of us is deeply wired for survival, to protect, to anticipate danger, to care for the tribe, to keep everyone safe. And another part of us wants something more, to create, to rest, to explore, to feel alive outside of responsibility. And sometimes those two parts are in conflict with each other, especially for women. Because so many women learned how to become incredibly capable while simultaneously disconnecting from themselves. And I think a lot of women are waking up to that right now, realizing, I know how to survive, but I'm not even sure I know how to feel safe. And that's what I want to talk about today. One thing I've been thinking about lately is this. At some point, survival stops being the emergency and starts becoming the personality. And I don't think most people realize when it happens, because it usually develops slowly through repeated stress, repeated responsibility, repeated emotional labor, repeated moments where your system learns, I need to stay alert. I need to anticipate problems. I need to hold everything together. I need to make sure everyone else is okay. And over time, that way of functioning starts feeling normal. Not peaceful, not healthy, just familiar. And this is where understanding the nervous system becomes so important. Because your nervous system is always paying attention to patterns, not just your thoughts. Patterns. What feels safe? What feels familiar? What feels predictable? And the nervous system will almost always choose familiarity over fulfillment, even when that familiarity is exhausting. That's why so many women struggle to relax, even when they technically have the opportunity to. They sit down and immediately feel guilty. They finally have a quiet moment, and suddenly their mind starts racing, thinking of all the things that they still need to do or get done. They rest, but they don't actually feel rested. In fact, It can feel like they're wasting time because their body has spent years learning that being quote unquote on is what keeps life functioning. And this starts early for a lot of people. Through family dynamics, through stress, through environments where emotions weren't processed safely, through watching the women before us constantly carrying everything while neglecting themselves. Not intentionally, not consciously, but through repetition. And eventually, self-neglect starts to feel normal. Hypervigilance starts feeling responsible. Exhaustion starts feeling productive. And rest starts feeling uncomfortable instead of restorative. That's a really important thing to understand. Because many women think, this is just who I am. But often it's who they had to become in order to adapt. And adaptation is not the same thing as identity. There's another part of this that I think matters as well. A lot of women are intellectually aware of these patterns now. They're listening to podcasts, reading books, watching videos about nervous system and emotional healing. And awareness matters. It absolutely matters. But awareness alone doesn't automatically create safety inside the body. Because healing isn't just learning new information. It's practicing something different long enough for your system to trust it. And that's the part that people often skip. The practice. The pause. The slowing down. The noticing. The staying present when your system wants to rush, react, overthink, or shut down. That's real work. Not glamorous work, not instantaneous work, but real work. And honestly, I think this is why so many people feel frustrated. Because they understand the concepts mentally, but their nervous system is still operating from old survival patterns. So they think, why am I still reacting like this if I know better? Because the body learns through repetition, not just realization. And I think one of the most healing things a woman can start doing is asking herself, what would it feel like to stop living as though I'm constantly bracing for something? I'm constantly preparing for something. I'm constantly needing to be one step ahead. Not abandoning responsibility. Not becoming careless, but no longer living in a constant state of internal readiness. Because so many women are carrying tension they don't even recognize anymore. the jaw tension, the overthinking, the emotional monitoring, the inability to fully relax, the constant anticipation of what could go wrong. And after enough years, it stops feeling abnormal. It just feels like life. But life was never meant to feel like constant survival. I want you to hear that. Life was never meant to feel like constant survival. And this work, the work of nervous system healing, emotional awareness, self-reflection, it's not about becoming someone new. It's about finally feeling safe enough to come back to yourself underneath the survival patterns. And maybe that's why this matters so much. Because I don't think women are actually looking to become completely different people. I think a lot of women are simply exhausted from living disconnected from themselves. And as we begin to wrap up this week's episode, and you're listening to this today, and you recognize yourself somewhere in this conversation, I want you to know this. There's nothing weak about the fact that your system adapted to what it experienced repeatedly. That's what human beings do. We adapt. But adaptation doesn't have to become a life sentence. And healing doesn't mean becoming perfect. Sometimes healing looks much quieter than that. Sometimes it looks like resting without guilt or explaining why. It looks like pausing before reacting. It looks like not abandoning yourself to keep the peace. It looks like learning how to feel safe enough to simply exist without constantly proving your worth through exhaustion. And maybe, just maybe, healing isn't about becoming someone new. Maybe it's about finally feeling safe enough to come back to yourself. And this is exactly the kind of work I help women move through every single day. Not just understanding the patterns intellectually, but actually learning how to practice something different inside of them. Inside my program, Soft 30 Reset, and through one-on-one coaching, we go deeper into the nervous system patterns. We talk about shadow, understanding what the shadow is, emotional conditioning and survival responses that keep so many women feeling exhausted, disconnected, and stuck. And more importantly, feeling like they're the only ones that are feeling this. So if this episode resonated with you, reach out. You don't have to untangle all of this alone. Feel free to share this episode because, the thing is, when we're feeling some of the things that we're feeling, like what I'm talking about here, we don't usually generally open up and talk about it. We usually marinate over that in the quiet recesses of our own home, our own space, our own mind. And that's often the hardest place to reach someone there. But this is a way that you can do that. This is a way that you could help, is by sharing this. Because it may just be the thing that somebody needs to hear. Thank you so much for being here with me today. And to every mother, daughter, caregiver, and woman carrying more than most people realize, I want you to know, I see you. And I'll see you again next week on the Getting to the Week podcast. And until then, please know, I send you so much
Thank you for
love.
joining us for another episode of the Getting Through the Week podcast with Dr. Kelly Ray. If you're looking to connect with her or schedule an appointment, here's how you can reach her. Follow her on Instagram at AskDrKellyRay. Check out her Facebook page at Dr. Kelly B. Find her on TikTok at Dr. Kelly. Visit her website at drkellyray.com. Or send her an email at drkellyray@gmail.com.